already typed the notes here. You can spend time reading it when you're home to recap what you learned in this lab. So let's see, make it accessible. So with this, I'll send this link. I'll copy it to Slack. Let me do it right now. For the second lab, it's in the lab channel. Okay, so it's in the lab channel. All right. This week, hey, could I please get your attention? I uploaded the lecture page, and also on resources, we have the videos. We usually add, the videos from the last class here, but you can ignore it. I did not explain in lecture how session work. If you're curious, you can, you can ask next time or ask me after class. But there's something to do with the cookie in the browser, and then how that cookie send data to the server. It decrypts the cookie into session data. Yeah, so cookie on your browser, you can go and reset cookie, right? In your browser, that's encrypted data. That's how your sessions work. Here you can read more about. So home authentication and authorization. In the lecture, I cover signing in, signing up, and sending messages, different relationship. But I did not cover authorization. There's a bit of that in the lab today. Who did that part here, right? If you go down to milestone 5, right, there's a syntax that's called require login. So you can define a function. In that function, you just check if the user is logged in or not. If not, redirect the user somewhere else. Don't let the user go to this action. So the syntax for that is that you use a Ruby on Rails filter. You add before action at the top. So you can read it up. So overall, the concept of this lab is just around understanding forms much better, right? Using partials much more confidently, and using your controller code, user params, params.require.permit and stuff. So, all right, recap. In milestone 1, obviously the internet caused a little bit of a problem, but hopefully, when that happens, you can try to save time by working on the same computer. But we want you guys to work together. The flow is like that. The driver and the supervisor join the link, and then the person who code, the driver, add, commit, push. I like to run git push origin master, but if you set up the first time you push git push origin master -u, the next time you can just git push. That's how GitHub tell you to do, right? And from the second person onwards, you actually just do git clone, but don't clone from Heroku, clone from GitHub, right? Heroku is where people deploy. Don't push changes to Heroku and ask your friend to pull. It's very bad. It just causes confusion, right? You cannot browse, you cannot see commits there easily. And how comfortable are you with Flash messages now? Much better. In milestone 3, right, 4, you see the cheat sheet here. That's how you can display a Flash message in application layout. But before that, I want you to understand, setting Flash messages is like saving something to the session. But then when you go to the next page, you check the session. Oh, there's a Flash message, and then it also clear it after it display it. So it's only done one time, right? Okay, but don't set like this before a render. So this is only before a redirect to function, right? Like that. To. Okay. Now you understand how to use user's controller, right? When the user create an account, remember params, user underscore params as a private method. You now know how to do that, right? And let's say I'll just do it right here. Pretty much any form. So you have like form for user here, and then blah blah blah, and in the controller user params, what goes in here, guys? what params dot require user permit. You know, this is the lazy way. Don't just you know, add them. Sometimes you have password confirmation, even company name and extra things. Over time you can do that better. I want you guys to feel comfortable with form 4. Form 4 here, it's very short, similar to like vendor partial. It understands where to submit the form just based on the object you pass into it, right? So technically, you know, this is the short format. The long format is like form 4 user URL is, if user is a new record, it actually go to user path. If user is an existing user, it will go to the current, you know, not current, but you know, the user itself. So like, you know, user path user. So it's a bit tricky, but I encourage you guys to feel comfortable with form. If I type form 4 here, hopefully we will understand it better. All right. This, sometimes people also use this, you know, ignore this colon thing, right? Most of the time we actually pass in an object. So let me find something better with a model object here, like this. Okay, it's possible that sometimes you have a different name for it, and then it explains why and how, where it, you know, it goes. So let's look at the example. This is a short format, form 4 post, right? This is the long format. You see, it understands this post object as the post resource, but in this case, because post has an ID, it's an existing object, so it will go to this URL, not the create action, it's the update action, because, you know, it also send a method patch. So that, like, this is the equivalent to, right? This is the long format, like the way that, you know, explicit, but Rails, again, convention over configuration. So usually you only write this much. Now if form is a new record, like, you know, you can do form 4 post.new. It will actually, instead of you know, this will be the same, but URL will be what? Post path, because it will go to the create action. Method will be post, right? Now sometimes you do want to add some extra attributes, then feel free to do this, HTML and extra things like that. In the future you can actually add like remote true, which is like submit a form over Ajax instead of refreshing the page. So yeah, just be very comfortable with form. It just, you know, generate this kind of HTML. Don't be shy when you read it. Most of the time you use form 4 with an object like this. You don't use it with a symbol, so don't worry about that. This is the same thing as the post down there. Yeah, you see this? It understands. It's slightly different from the existing record. Okay, so be comfortable with form 4. Here you're dealing with user sign in and sign up, so user.new, sign up, right? If you later implement the feature, the user can update his profile, right? I can update my email address, I can update my password. You will need to implement more logic in there, right? The update method, maybe, do you want the user to enter the password if they need to change anything? You see some website, right? In order to change your name or email, we need you to enter the password one more time. But how do you implement forgotten password? I forgot my password, or like change password behavior. So think about that. I mean, device will, you know, from week 3 you use device. But if you build it yourself, it should be quite easy too. Okay? So change password is like, you know, check the current password and then allow the user to update it. Alright, after users sign up, you can assign this. This is a feature not all websites do, right? But maybe it's a good to have. If someone sign up, you just sign that person in. And how do you sign the person in? Set the session, right? So it will look like this. If user.save, you know, you also say success, you know, account created. right? You can also, before you redirect to root path here, you also do one more thing. What is it? Session user ID is like that. This is signing the user in. Same thing with in session, right? Should we what? Cache what? Hash? Yeah, this it's a session is like a hash, right? It's a here it can it's your very small memory store. So you just save a value to this key. Oh, should you protect this one to be something else? Encrypted. Well, this is only visible on your machine. If you check it on localhost, it's a different. It's just encrypted. Yeah, so that's a very good question. So go into your localhost thing and not this project, but let's say if I use that. If I use go into one of your browser, right, and then go into cookies, you can see it. It's an encrypted value. So localhost. Sorry, I have too many in localhost, but it will look like underscore your database name, for example Codo Dating here. Click on Codo Dating, it will just look like this, but this value, right, on the Rails side it will actually decrypt it. Okay, maybe if I have time I will show how this is done later. I show it in one of my past lectures, so one of the past videos we should have it. Alright, sessions controller is simpler, but remember how to do destroy and stuff. Alright, so that's milestone 2. Anything related to milestone 2 that we didn't cover? Alright, so just handle different cases. Now you know the authenticate method. Where's the authenticate method from? Has secure password, right? Help. Alright, understand why it's good, like last time I used, hey, let's treat it like resources sessions, but only for new and create, right? Because to be honest, this is just one way to do it, or I can just do like, very clear like this, right? Get sign in. What else? Create will be sign in as well, but it will be a post. The only difference between the first line and this line is just the name of your path. Here you have sign in underscore path, sign in underscore path. Up here you have new session path, right? And sessions path. That's all. So here you have like link to link to whatever way you like. Okay, sign in. Here will be new session path, and then if the form tag will be form tag submit to what? Sessions path do, right? But if you use this method, or then you actually do link to sign in is what? Sign in path, because it uses the name from here / sign in, right? And then this will be, if you use fam tag, will be sign in path. Automatically form will use a post method. Do you guys understand this part? I can have the same name here because I define like this. For destroy, I don't want you to add destroy here, because normally in any resource destroy you pass in the resource ID. But in this, so that's method 1 and method 2, right? So option 1, here's option 1, this is option 2. But for destroy, for logging out, use this. Now you may prefer letting people log out by get. That's okay too. If you use get, then people can log out by visiting a URL. Some people don't like it because it's making some changes in the request. Get then tend to be a request that cannot make any changes. It's just normally, right, what you want to do. So here get delete is, then you need to do link to or button to method delete. That one's clear. Milestone 4, visit the flash messages. Nothing crazy here, but then what you end up seeing very often in your application layout is that in your body tag, then you have something like container, right, or container fluid, and then you have maybe your flash messages right after your navbar, and then you also yield, right? Anything in your layout, in your view file will go in there, right? Looks like that. Okay, keep layout clean. Anything else? Maybe navbar, you can keep navbar right in here too, right? But you may have container separately like this. It's okay too, whatever it is. Yeah, what's your question?
So the button at the end of the flash.
Yeah. It's depending on this. If the button, it should work. If you show here, data dismiss. Oh, it will only do something if you have in your for the close button. To work, you need to have this, in the flash, the content you should have alert dismissible, and then in here close you have data dismissed and this, and then you also need your JavaScript file. Remember, make sure you use require bootstrap sprockets. Sprockets or just bootstrap is fine. Sprocket means inside Sprocket you install all the files separately. If you don't, then it combines everything together, alright, in application.js. Okay, milestone 5 is what I just said, before action. There's also skip before action, but if you don't know what it is, then you can just search before action. It used to be called before filter, but the name is weird, so now people call it before action. And then you can read. Oh, that's not very easy to read, huh? I think maybe Rails guides before action. There are only 2 main page. So action controller overview here, and then maybe you can find before action. All right, so it's very clear, right? This link. Go here, before action, then you can read it here. So let me see if I can find this under 8 filter. Okay, this guy, I get this link and I post it in here, right? Reading. You can do that. That's it. Unfortunately, you don't have Facebook login yet, but it's an important feature. Play with it at home. Play with it in your homework as an extra feature too. If you log in with Facebook, you can implement GitHub easily. And now in homework 3 and above, you can use device and then device with OAuth. But here you can do it yourself too. Just use OAuth, OmniAuth Gem, OmniAuth Facebook. You can use OmniAuth GitHub. OAuth, there's a structure, all the OAuth app follow. So from there, you should be able to get the user email, user picture, and everything. So so that's why in here it show you how to parse. OAuth means what Facebook or GitHub give us the email of the user. That's it. It's quite safe, right? Cool. Sometimes you get the friends list and extra information. You may need permission for that. Facebook might need to approve it. But just this way is very convenient to get the user email without them typing it wrongly. Right? You get their image without them having to upload an image. It's very nice. So most of apps now support social login. It's safer too. You know why? No need to remember password. If the user needs to remove our website from him, then they have to go into Facebook or GitHub and then there's a list of approved application. There's an expiration date, but usually it's quite long. So then they have to go there and revoke the permission, right? So practice with it anyway. Facebook changed the app developer console once in a while, so it's a bit weird. Okay. There's one more thing about the rake tasks. I mentioned here. Make sure you understand. Well, it's just like this. Does anyone understand why it works like that? Yeah. So okay. So it's very. Oops. I'm out of time again. Sorry, guys. But I want you guys to understand their structure here. So in Rails app, there's a lib folder, right? Anything that's not your, the MVC architecture, you put in, you can have it. But you can define any rake task, right? And normally people group a rake task under namespace. This is a syntax, so namespace, description, and task name. All right, pay attention to this here. It's quite cool. All right, that's why you do Rails or rake. It's the same from Rails 5 onward, but you say Rails coordinating generate users. Makes sense, right? It's a good way to, that's why you have Rails db migrate db drop, because it's just under the same namespace. That one is clear? The file name can be anything. .rake. So it loads all the .rake files in rake task. One more thing. If you don't have this second argument, this is like a key, right? It's a hash. If you only have task name, it's the normal Ruby task. What's a normal Ruby task? You can write Ruby, but that's it. But if you want to use Rails environment, like user anything, then you put environment here. It means this task, coordinating generate user, depends on the environment task. Environment is a task that load the environment. So if you don't believe me, go to, you can just run Rails environment. That's our rake environment. It just load up the environment. That's it. So it doesn't do anything, but you can, these are this warning, right? But you can build another task that depend on this task, and then you can query the Rails object that way. Okay? All right. Any question about the lab? Yeah, so because it does this, right? Lib task. Normally, if you don't have this second argument, right, it will be like this. This is a symbol. So you have rake or Rails coordinating generate users. Then it's inside, it's just Ruby. Is that okay? That one's clear, right? You can define any rake task, and then and then you can call it just Ruby. But here you have user. If you do this, it will fail. So rake tasks allow you to do something like key and value, so you depend on environment. It's just dependency. My task here depend on this environment. It's just now you understand. If you want to run a Rails way, then you need to add the second part.
So it's kind of like exclusive
for Rails, yeah, Rails provide you another task. So I mean, rake can provide you this task 1 do, and then if you want task 2 to depend on to run task 1 first, then you can pass in like that. Wait. Okay. Now it looks funny, right? This is actually easier to look, right? But because Rails Ruby also support you the key value the other way. You can also write like this. Two ways are the same. Yeah, it will run this one first and then it run this one. Task 1 first and then task 2. If you don't believe me, you can add these things and then you can say, put task 1. I believe it's true. Who knows? It might be false. Let's see, huh? Just that. And then maybe Rails. What? you know, with this environment thing is similar to typing Rails console, and then you can have access to all this code. Rails what? Coder dating. If you do this, it will display all the tasks. Coder dating. Task 2, right? Alright, so it ran task 1 first and task 2. Yeah? Now, my recommendation, I don't like putting a lot of code in here like this because it's very hard to test. What I prefer to do is get all of these things and then call a method called generate users. You can even pass in a number, right? I like to do this better. And then in my user model, so slow. In my user model, can someone tell me why I prefer to write code this way? It's in the model, then you don't need a rig task. You can just go to Rails console and then you say user.generate users. Now you can pass in a number. You can create as many thing as you want. Obviously this doesn't pass because it's a class method, right? Self. So I reload, try again, and it will run. This is cleaner, right? So beautiful. You can create rig tasks easily for your friends and anything. You can put that in the README, but keep your rig tasks simple like this because it's easier to test. And then next week we can learn about how to create tests for these class method, how to create tests for instance method. Any other question? Okay. So lots more to learn this week. Good luck.